Welcome back, this is Zach and I'm a Lumix creator. In this video, we're going to talk about sensor size when it comes to choosing a camera for video. Let's talk about what is a sensor in case you doesn't know. So the sensor is like the retina of your eye. It captures the light and send a signal to the processor so that you can see what you have captured with your camera. It's where the light will end up in your camera. It's why we can see an image. So there are a lot of different sensor sizes. The more famous one being the full frame, the APS-C, the micro four third. We even have a medium format, large format. We have 1-inch sensor on the smaller end. First of all, sensor, when we heard about sensor, it's like, oh, I want a bigger sensor because it's better. I want a bigger sensor because it has more bokeh, it has a better low light, and small sensor is not good. Is it real? Is it true? I'm going to tell you the key difference between the two. The advantage of a bigger sensor is that it has more sensor, it can sense more light. So when you sense more light, the image becomes cleaner, it becomes brighter. That's the main upside when people talk about choosing a full frame camera. Of course, it has much more upside. We're just gonna leave it there now. Let's talk about micro four third. So, good thing about micro four third is it has a smaller sensor. Micro four third is actually exactly half the size of full frame. So this is a full frame sensor, the Panasonic Lumix S5. And this is the GH5S, which has the micro four third sensor. My question is, does that mean that bigger sensor is better? And short answer is no. So both sensors have its own advantages. Usually it's easier to stabilize a smaller sensor compared to a larger sensor. And the micro four third will means that it has a better stabilizer. It consumes less battery, it generates less heat, and it often gives you a chance to have a longer recording time like the GH5. It can record 4K indefinitely, means you can record as long as your battery can last, as long as your card allows. So this is the immediate difference we can tell between a large sensor and a smaller sensor. It all comes down to you, what kind of things do you want to achieve at the end. I'm going to talk about the biggest difference between a full frame and a micro four third. That is, the bigger the sensor means the bigger the overall ecosystem will be. This is a 50mm 1.4 for full frame, the Panasonic Lumix S5. Alright, it's huge. And this is a 25mm 1.4 equivalent to 50mm focal length, 25mm 1.4 for the GH5S. This is the difference between them in terms of size. Both have the same focal length, same aperture. The build size, it's much bigger when it comes to a full frame lens and it's much smaller when it comes to a micro four third lens. The same focal length, but I would say like 3 times the size on the full frame. So it's smaller footprint on the micro four third and larger footprint on the full frame. So a larger sensor will means that the whole ecosystem will be larger. The lens will be bigger, the gimbal we want to use will be heavier, and the tripod, everything else will be larger, the bag will be larger if you choose a full frame system. 50mm 1.4 on the full frame will give you the same focal length on the 25mm on the micro four third, because the micro four third sensor is exactly half the size of the full frame. Therefore, it's 25, and times 2, it becomes 50. So although the number is 25 on this and 50 on this, but if you put on the lens on the body, it will have the same focal length. And so you have to understand the concept of a smaller sensor and bigger sensor. It has different calculations on focal length. So this is how it looks like when I mount the 50mm on the full frame. So it's big. This is same focal length on the micro four third, very small. And so that is some of the difference between a full frame sensor and a micro four third sensor, and which there isn't a best one here. It's all come to what kind of thing you try to achieve. So I believe after you watch this video, you can kind of have a concept of how sensor can affect your work. And if you want to learn more, we have other video talking about other stuffs when choosing a camera. I'm Zach, and thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.